equation has four factors, a little bit of multiplication. So you've got a thing on the left, CO2, that you want to get to zero. And that's going to be based on the number of people, the services each person's using on average, the energy on average for each service, and the CO2 being put out per unit of energy. So let's look at each one of these and see how we can get this down to zero.
Bill Gates, who is not a medical professional, ran a pandemic virus simulation which he projected would kill 33 million people if that simulation came to fruition. A year later, alongside the Johns Hopkins Center, the Gates Foundation hosted Event 201 at the World Economic Forum in October of 2019. Event 201 was a high-level pandemic exercise that basically played out a pandemic with potentially catastrophic consequences, which then became what the Gates Foundation labeled Event 201, that would require cooperation between industries, governments, and key institutions. On February 28, 2020, Bill Gates called coronavirus the once-in-a-century pathogen we've all worried about, as he sounded the alarm for world leaders to respond accordingly. One has to wonder if he was signaling for world leaders to order more hand sanitizer for their bunkers, or if he was just signaling his friends to cash out their poker chips on the stock market so they could sell high and buy up stocks later when the prices hit rock bottom. There have been many mainstream articles debunking Bill Gates' connection to the coronavirus. And at this point, my advice to billionaire Bill, whose father served on the board of Planned Parenthood, would be to stop paying journalists to correct the record for you and go full 1984 and just open up your own ministry about yourself and Big Pharma. Oh wait, that's already happened. Since 1875, big oil is big pharma. Think Rockefeller medicine. And all of these industries are incestuous. From government to Hollywood to medicine, they're all just different tentacles of the same octopus. When the dust settles on all of the panic surrounding the alleged pandemic, everyone is going to forget that all of these CEOs stepped down in this mass corporate exodus, because the 24-hour news cycle makes sure the masses are constantly distracted.
The epidemic, the Boston Health Department decided to investigate the contagiousness of this. So they, believe it or not, took hundreds of people with the flu and they sucked the snot out of their nose and injected it into the healthy people who didn't have the flu, and not one time could they make the next person sick. They did this over and over again, and they were not able to demonstrate contagion. They even did it with horses who apparently got the Spanish flu, and they put bags over their head and the horses sneezed in the bag, and they put the bag over the next horse, and not one horse got sick. You can read about this in a book called The Invisible Rainbow by Arthur Furstenberg, who chronicles all the steps in the electrification of the earth and how within 6 months there was a new flu pandemic all over the world. And when you hear the normal explanations, how did it go from Kansas to South Africa in 2 weeks? So the entire world got the symptoms at the same time. There has been a dramatic and quantum leap in the last 6 months with the electrification of the Earth. And I'm sure a lot of you know what that is. It's called 5G, where they now have 20,000 radiation-emitting satellites, just like the radiation-emitting thing in your pocket and on your wrist and that you use all the time. That is not compatible with health. For this reason, in order to be human at all today, it is necessary to expend much stronger spiritual capacities than was necessary a century ago. I can't help but say something about this whole coronavirus thing, if you want me to. So, again, when you know Steiner, you have the answers to the test, but you have to then figure out the details. In 1918, after the biggest pandemic, the Spanish flu pandemic of 1918, Steiner was asked, what was this all about? And he said, well, viruses are simply excretions of a toxic cell. Viruses are pieces of DNA or RNA with a few other proteins. They bud out from the cell. They happen when the cell is poisoned. They are not the cause of anything. They happen when the cell is poisoned. They are not the cause of anything.
frequency waves that don't travel as far and will rely on a network of hundreds of thousands, potentially millions of small cell sites. And the question then is, are there any health implications? Any public safety implications? So my question for you, particularly Mr. Gillen and Mr. Perry.
Thank you, Senator. I think thank you for your focus on the issue. Safety is paramount, and as you alluded to, we rely on the expert agencies, we rely on the findings of the FDA and others as to the requirements to keep all of us safe. There are no industry-backed studies, to my knowledge right now. Happy to visit with you as to what opportunities you think there needs to be more studies, and we're always for more science. We also rely on what the scientists tell us.
So essentially, the answer to my question, how much money? Zero.
I can only follow up with you, Senator. To my knowledge, there's no active studies being backed by industry today.
Anybody else know of industry commitments to back research, fund it, support it, to ascertain scientifically the health effect?
No, I'm not aware of any.
So there really is no research ongoing. We're kind of flying blind here, so far as health and safety is concerned. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
The ships that were quarantined just so happened to be from the Diamond Princess line of cruise ships. So let's check out this PR release from Princess Cruises. Continuing Princess Cruz's comeback new promise, a commitment focused on investing more than $450 million across the global fleet. Now here they go into some of these very expensive upgrades that they have added. Well, one of the upgrades that they go into great detail explaining on their website with high-end marketing videos showing exactly how it works is their network connectivity. Here's from their press release. Carnival Corporation and Regal Princess announces they will, quote, establish a new industry apex in connectivity capabilities. It says, using its newly developed connectivity service, MedallionNet, and working with SES networks. More about them in a minute. They talk about attempting to achieve unheard of bandwidth and how MedallionNet is made possible through, quote, an inventive array of antenna, networks, equipment, and configuration innovations that combine to make the Regal Princess the only vessel on the planet that is currently capable of achieving this speed. Well, according to the SCS website, there are some Navy ships that can do this, powered by our O3B fleet of MEO or medium Earth orbit satellites. Yes, they are admitting to working with SES, and although they're calling it Wi-Fi, that is a misnomer considering that the company seems to be using millimeter waves. Here are a few clips from some of their videos.
Movies, shows, and sports, as well as make Wi-Fi phone calls and video conference calls like FaceTime. That's all possible in large part thanks to what lies on board, what flies in the skies above, and the way we fuse all the technology together to ensure your experience is as great as possible. MedallionNet uses mid-Earth orbit satellites, or MEO, that are positioned 8,000 kilometers away. There are 20 MEO satellites surrounding the equator that see our Medallion-class ships, which aligns with destinations like London and Vancouver, and which corresponds to approximately 80% of Earth's surface. GEO satellites actually still reign supreme when enabling connectivity in the polar regions. This is because GEO is not impacted by rain and weather. So onboard Princess Cruises ships that feature MedallionNet, we leverage MEO and GEO satellites to keep you connected to the things you love most, and seamlessly shift to GEO when in the north. Thanks, GEO. In these tougher conditions, we're glad you're there.
So by admitting in their own video that water can interfere with the connectivity is the giveaway that they are using millimeter waves and not just the type of frequencies that Wi-Fi runs on today. Now when you look a little more into this company, SES, that's when you find this crazy information. You can see they're presently teaming up with governments, including the US government, and of course our MILITARY. When you look at tabs like this one that starts intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance missions, one realizes this company's products and services catalog looks like a homeland security dream or privacy lover's nightmare, depending on how you want to see it. And here you can also see on the SES website that they are using these satellites to beam none other than what? 5G. So, are these passengers getting sick from a VIRUS? That, by the way, they are admitting that the people on the ship haven't been tested for, or are they getting sick from millimeter wave frequencies being beamed at them even while they sit trapped in quarantine?
President Donald Trump has this morning announced economic relief for millions of Americans.
Well, cash, Tracy, for all Americans as more cities and states here shut down. Things are very quiet here in LA. Schools, restaurants, bars are closed, but other parts of California, close to 7 million people are in a 3-week lockdown in their homes. They can only leave to get groceries or visit the doctor. And what we're seeing across the states is that people who live from paycheck to paycheck now are at serious risk of unemployment, even homelessness. So to help those people, and of course business as well, the Trump administration is looking at a $1 trillion economic relief package.
Americans need cash now, and the president wants to get cash now. And I mean now, in the next 2 weeks.
The New York mayor has just said that he's not ruling out a similar shelter-in-place order across New York, so we'll keep an eye on that for the next couple of hours.
Now to Europe correspondent Ben Avery. Ben, France has started its first day in lockdown. How's it going?
When Tracy, before that actually began that lockdown, we saw people in Paris rushing to train stations, to airports, trying to get out of the country. Then when it was enforced, there were police out on the streets asking people what they were doing, and if they weren't travelling for essential purposes, they were told to go home. We also have other news out of France, and that is that the French Open, the tennis tournament, was scheduled to take place in May. It's now been moved back to September. Wimbledon is safer now, but that is also under review. Now, Boris Johnson has announced a few more measures. He is telling now British nationals to not travel unless they have good reason to do so, and that goes for anywhere in the world for the next 30 days. We've also heard from Buckingham Palace today. It has taken measures to keep the Queen safe. She will be taken to Windsor Castle on Thursday. She's going to remain there for quite some time. A lot of her events now cancelled.
Outside China, Italy is the country with the most reported infections and deaths from the coronavirus. So, in a desperate bid to stop the disease from spreading, the entire country is now in a lockdown. It's the most severe restriction on movement in Italy since World War II. Charlie D'Agata is in Rome. Charlie, what is it like there now?
Well, good morning, Anthony. Just take a look at the Piazza del Popolo. I know you've been here, the People's Square. Not today. The Prime Minister here has described the situation, quoting Winston Churchill, as Italy's darkest hour. If anyone wants to see what a worst-case scenario looks like, look no further than Italy. It was the news a nation already on its knees was dreading, but as the crisis deepened, it felt inevitable. The announcement triggered a rash of panic buying here in Rome as shoppers in masks swarmed supermarkets in fear of a countrywide lockdown. In a national address, Prime Minister Giuseppe Conte spelled it out in the starkest terms. We have run out of time, he said. We're having a growth in infection and deaths. The whole of Italy will become a protected zone. In essence, a quarantine of the entire country of 60 million people until next month. Here's what life under lockdown means. Travel across Italy severely restricted. All public gatherings of any kind strictly forbidden. Employees should work from home or prove to police why they're not. Restaurants and shops will shut their doors after dusk. The extension of the shutdown of schools and universities across the country. Violators risk up to 3 months in jail or fines of $225. The extreme measures after the number of cases jumped once again. Now the most infections outside of China. More than 9,000 cases, 463 people have died. Officials in the hardest hit northern region say hospitals are on the verge of collapse.
Well, the past few days have been, pretty confusing.
This morning we spoke with an 88-year-old with pre-existing conditions, Giorgio Penna, who's been stuck inside his house since the original shutdown. Are you scared?
Yes, I'm scared. I mean, who is not scared about dying? Everybody's scared about dying.
Now, if there is some good news to report, there are some reassuring signs that extreme measures like these are working across some of the northern zones where this quarantine has been in place for a couple of weeks. The numbers there are actually going down. Michelle?
We hope those measures do work. Charlie D'Agata in Rome, thank you.
I can announce today, and Gavin Williamson is making a statement now in the House of Commons, that after schools shut their gates from Friday afternoon, they will remain closed for most pupils, for the vast majority of pupils, until further notice. And I'll explain what I mean by the vast majority of pupils. The objective is to slow the spread of the virus, and as I say, we judge that this is the right moment to do that. But of course, as I've always said, we also need to keep the NHS going and to treat the rising number of cases. So we need health workers who are also parents to continue to go to work. And we need other critical workers with children to keep doing their jobs too, from police officers who are keeping us safe to the supermarket delivery drivers, social care workers who look after the elderly and who are so vital. We'll be setting out more details shortly about whom we mean in these groups. So we therefore need schools to make provision for the children of these key workers who would otherwise be forced to stay home. Of course, this does mean that exams will not take place as planned in May and June, though we will make sure that pupils get the qualifications they need and deserve for their academic career. Now, I know that these steps will not be easy for parents or for teachers, and for many parents this will be frustrating, and it will make it harder for them to go out to work. And of course, that's one of the reasons that we haven't wanted to go ahead. And that's why we're now working on further measures to ensure that we support not just businesses but also individuals and their families to keep our economy going, as Rishi Sunak, the Chancellor, outlined yesterday. We believe that the steps we've already taken, together with those I'm announcing today, are already slowing the spread of the disease, but we will not hesitate to go further and faster in the days and weeks ahead. And we will do whatever it takes so that we beat it together.
The 9 most terrifying words in the English language are, "I'm from the government and I'm here to help."
Now, I'm going to get a lot of hate for what I'm about to say, partly because cognitive dissonance is so strong, partly because there's a massive number of people in the cult of personality, and partly because, against all logic and historical precedent, people still want to have hope that there are good guys in government who are going to weed out the deep state bad guys in government. Guys, I got a news flash for you. That's not how history has worked out. And if we don't learn from history, we're doomed to repeat it. Everybody in the monstrosity called Washington, D.C. is corrupt to the core, and not one person is looking out for your best interests. With that, pay particular attention to what's going on in this clip.
So we're signing the $8.3 billion. I asked for 2.5, and I got 8.3, and I'll take it. Okay. So here we are, 8.3 billion. Doing very well, but it's an unforeseen problem. What a problem. Came out of nowhere, so we're taking care of it.
And with a scared public, bipartisan support, freshly subsidized big pharma CEOs, and a presidential signature, what you just witnessed was yet another massive theft of the American people. With the stroke of a pen, $8.3 billion was just added onto the already mountainous debt load of future unborn generations, solidifying them even further into transgenerational debt slavery. Now, you might be tempted to think, Brian, that's nothing. It's only $8.3 billion. Where are used to $700 billion bank bailouts and massive spending packages. And there was this recent $1.37 trillion fiscal budget. $8.3 billion is nothing. That's exactly what the banksters want you to think. It's just another couple billion. Just to remind you of how much a billion is. If you were to make $1 per second, you'd be making over $86,400 a day or $31.5 million every year. Even with that crazy amount of money, you'd have to work for 263 years to accumulate $8.3 billion. First of all, we can't afford this. Even if we could, it's immoral to rob from people of their income and pay for a problem that was likely created by government themselves.
To put families first, last week the House passed a strong bipartisan $8.3 billion emergency funding package of entirely new funds.
To unleash the full power of the federal government in this effort today, I am officially declaring a national emergency. Two very big words. The action I am taking will open up access to up to $50 billion of very important and a large amount of money for states and territories and localities in our shared fight against this disease.
$8.3 billion emergency funding package.
$50 billion.
We made it well-funded.
$50 billion. $8.3 billion emergency funding package.
Will remove or eliminate every obstacle necessary to deliver our people the care that they need and that they're entitled to. No resource will be spared, nothing whatsoever.
No resource will be spared, nothing whatsoever.
Obviously, martial law is an issue that we've been addressing on the Corbett Report podcast for some time, and of course in various articles and videos that we've also created in the past. But medical martial law is an issue that not many researchers have been devoting a significant amount of attention to, with some notable exceptions. But to trace the idea of medical martial law, or the idea that government can quarantine and force medicate people against their wishes in the event of a public health emergency, of course we can trace the roots back to those fevered and panicked days in the wake of 9/11, when the idea of bioterrorism was very much on the tips of many people's tongues. And in the wake of that horrendous attack on the United States, and of course the anthrax attack, which later turned out to be from Fort Detrick and was eventually pinned on Bruce Ivins, although of course there are some very big questions surrounding that. But at any rate, in the wake of all that panic, something called the Model State Emergency Health Powers Act was drafted by something called the Center for Law and the Public's Health at Georgetown and Johns Hopkins Universities. Now, this was done in conjunction with the Center for Disease Control, and as its name would suggest, it basically serves as a model for states to use to draft up their own Emergency Health Powers Acts. And in fact, the Center for Law and the Public's Health, which can be found at publichealthlaw.net, likes to brag that this particular model act has been now implemented and adopted by over 40 states in the Union. So it's quite an influential document. And what does this document say about things that the government should be able to do in the event of a public health emergency? Well, section 603 of the document, under the heading Vaccination and Treatment, reads the following, quote, "During a state of public health emergency, the Public Health Authority may exercise the following emergency powers over persons as necessary to address the public health emergency. A. Vaccination. To vaccinate persons as protection against infectious disease and to prevent the spread of contagious or possible contagious disease. 1. Vaccination may be performed by any qualified person authorized to do so by the Public Health Authority. 2. A vaccine to be administered must not be such as is reasonably likely to lead to serious harm to the affected individual. 3. To prevent the spread of contagious or possibly contagious disease, the Public Health Authority may isolate or quarantine, pursuant to Section 604, persons who are unable or unwilling for reasons of health, religion, or conscience to undergo vaccinations pursuant to this section.
Just today, Trudeau announced they may now have new emergency measures under consideration. So this has a lot of people talking about what he potentially means when it comes to enacting this act, which is why it's trending on Twitter. But today I want to bring to your attention another act that I think is of the utmost importance that's largely going under the radar and completely missed by everyone. This is what should be trending here instead of Emergencies Act is this one, ladies and gentlemen, the Quarantine Act, which achieved royal descent back in 2005 following the SARS outbreak. And this is the one that would give the Canadian government the ability to enact all-out martial law and to completely obliterate the rights of Canadian citizens.
Intentions.
Eric, can you be specific about when you met Rockefeller, how it happened in these discussions?
I met Rockefeller through a female attorney I knew who called me up one day and said one of the Rockefellers would like to meet you. I made a video called Mad as Hell, and he'd seen the video and wanted to meet me. And knew I was running for governor of Nevada. So sure, I'd love to meet him. And I met him and I liked him, and he was a very, very smart man. And we used to talk and share ideas and thoughts. And he's the one who told me 11 months before 9/11 ever happened that there was going to be an event. Never told me what the event was going to be, but there was going to be an event. And out of that event, we were going to invade Afghanistan to run pipelines from the Caspian Sea. We were going to invade Iraq, to take over the oil fields, establish a base in the Middle East, and make it all part of the New World Order. And we go after Chavez in Venezuela. And sure enough, later 9/11 happened, and I remember he was telling me how you're gonna see soldiers looking in caves for people in Afghanistan and Pakistan and all these places, and there's gonna be this war on terror, which there's no real enemy. And the whole thing is a giant hoax, but it's a way for the government to take over the American people.
He told you it was going to be a hoax.
Oh yeah. There's no question. He says, right? And the whole agenda is to create a one-world government where everybody has an RFID chip implanted in them. All money is to be in those chips, right? There'll be no more cash. And this is given me straight from Rockefeller himself. This is what they want to accomplish. And all money will be in your chips. And so instead of having cash, anytime you have money in your chip, they can take out whatever they want to take out whenever they want to. If they say you owe us this much money in taxes, they just deduct it out of your chip digitally.
Total control.
Total control. And if you're like me or you, and you're protesting what they're doing, they can just turn off your chip. And you have nothing. You can't buy food. You can't do anything. It's total control of the people.
And that chip's connected to a database that has your purchasing records, what you do, what
everything.
You sell.
Everything is in there, And so they want a one-world government controlled by them, everybody being chipped, all your money in those chips, and they control the chips, and they control people, and you become a slave, you become a serf to these people. That's their goal, that's their intentions.
What I'm here to share with you
ceea ce vreau să vă spun în seara aceasta
is a testimony of where I lived.
Să vă dau o mărturie pe care eu personal am trăit-o.
The people I spent my time with.
Oamenii cu care mi-am petrecut viața.
I was an engineer for 32 years.
Pentru 32 de ani am fost un inginer.
And that's not important.
Lucrul acesta nu e așa de important.
But what is important is what I have to share with you.
Dar ce e important este ce vreau să vă spun acum.
Many people have asked me, isn't there some way around this device, this microchip?
Mulți m-au întrebat, nu există o altă cale care să nu fie acest microchip care se pune electronic.
Could a glove be made with a microchip in it so I could still get food?
Pot să fac o mănușă în loc să-l pun pe pielea mea sau în trupul meu acest microchip.
We have the greatest answer, and that is Jesus Christ.
Avem cel mai mare răspuns, da, Domnul Iisus Hristos.
In 1966, I was put on a project.
În 1966 mi s-a dat un proiect.
I had been with IBM and now I was with General Electric.
Lucrasem pentru compania IBM și acum lucram pentru compania General Electric.
The project was to develop a little microcircuit.
Proiectul era ca să proiectez, să concep un circuit foarte mic.
That would connect the nerve ends on a broken spine back together.
Ca să conectez terminațiile nervoase atunci când s-a rupt șira spinării, să fac o conexie electrică a nervilor.
This seemed like a good idea to me, and it's something that I would want to be a part of.
Mi s-a părut o idee foarte bună și ceva care îmi făcea plăcere să particip în așa un studiu.
I was a very zealous engineer. I worked very hard. I worked many long hours.
Eram un inginer plin de zel, îmi plăcea să lucrez și mă dedicam și lucrau ore multe.
I was a design engineer and used Boolean algebra, Boolean equations to design computer circuits.
Și eram un inginer proiectant și foloseam calcule matematice ca să fac aceste proiecte de aceste circuite.
We were not successful with the young lady with the severed spine.
N-am putut și n-am avut succes cu tânăra fată care și-a rupt șira spinării, nervii au fost rupți, să putem să-i reconectăm.
And as time went along, it looked like they were going to close our project down. We had learned many things, but she was not doing well.
Am învățat prin acest proiect multe lucruri, dar femeia pe care vreau să o tratăm nu s-a vindecat deloc, nu a făcut niciun progres.
Much of our research data had been publicized.
Multe din lucrurile pe care noi le-am făcut, le-am cercetat cu această ocazie, au fost publicate.
And some men came to us that we were to find out were from the government.
Niște oameni au venit la noi și după am aflat mai târziu că erau din partea guvernului.
They were from the CIA and the FBI.
Veneau de la CIA și FBI.
And they asked us to develop a little microchip for identification.
Și ne-au cerut să proiectăm acest microchip pentru identificare.
This was to be used not in human beings, not in animals, but to be put in drug shipments to catch drug dealers.
Acest sistem urma să fie pus nu în animale sau în oameni, ci va fi pus cu transportul de droguri, de medicamente, ca să identifice pe traficanții de droguri.
They came with a lot of money.
Și au venit și mi-au oferit foarte mulți bani.
And so we were willing to do whatever we could.
Așa că am fost gata să facem tot ce ni s-a cerut.
I want to tell you at this point that I was not a Christian and I did not want anything to do with Christians.
La timpul acesta în care eu lucram la acest proiect, vreau să vă spun că nu eram credincios și nici nu aveam să am de-a face nimic cu credința în Dumnezeu și cu viața de credință.
We had developed the first identification device.
Am proiectat și am conceput primul aparat de identificare.
And it was completed in the early 70s.
Și a fost completat acest proiect în începutul anilor 70.
They came back to us and they said, we want something better than that.
Și au venit înapoi la noi și ne-au spus, vrem ceva mai bun decât ce ați făcut până acum.
And so we said, if you have enough money, we can develop anything.
Și le-am spus, dacă aveți bani destui, nu putem să concepem orice, să proiectăm ce vreți voi.
I was not alone there. There were 100 people involved in the project.
Proiectul acesta nu era numai al meu, singur lucram la el, erau 100 de oameni care lucrau împreună cu mine.
Some were from General Electric, some from Motorola.
Unii erau de la compania General Electric, alții de la Motorola.
Some were from the Bell Laboratories.
Alții de la laboratorul Bell.
Some were from the Boston Medical Center.
Și alții de la Centrul Medical din Boston.
And some were from Stanford University.
Și unii de la Universitatea Stanford.
My responsibility was project leader or the senior project engineer.
Și responsabilitatea mea eram conducătorul proiectului sau inginerul senior.
We began to work on the design of a microchip.
Și am început să lucrăm, să proiectăm acest microchip.
That when it was completed,
astfel încât a trebuit să fie, când a fost terminat,
was 0.75 millimeters in diameter.
Avea un diametru de 0,7 mm,
7 millimeters long.
7 mm lungime.
It was the size of 1/4 of a grain of rice.
Era de mărimea a patra a unui cop de grâu. O pătrime.
Again, I want to say that I was not a Christian and there were no Christians there.
Și vreau să vă spun că nici eu nu eram credincios și niciunul dintre cei care lucram nu știu să fi fost credincioși.
They said they wanted this to have a power source and be able to emit a signal.
Mi-au spus că acest microchip care l-am făcut trebuie să aibă o sursă de energie ca să poată să transmită.
And they told us they wanted us to use lithium as a battery source.
Și mi-au spus că pentru bateria care va trebui să alimenteze să folosim litium, elementul acesta litium.
Lithium's used in watch batteries, it's used in heart pacemaker batteries, it's used in a lot of places.
Litium e folosit în bateriile de la ceas, în cei care au pacemaker, nu știu cum începe românește, la inimă, ca să regleze bătăile inimii.
I designed into this microchip a little charging circuit that would charge that battery.
Și am făcut ca să aibă și o linie prin care să se încarce aceste baterii.
This sounds like a lot of technical things coming together, but if you'll bear with me 1 minute, you'll see what God has laid out about this microchip.
Se pare că aici să vorbim de niște lucruri tehnice care nu prea văd că au vreo legătură, dar Dumnezeu a lucrat și în privința aceasta în ceea ce s-a făcut și o să vă explic mai târziu de ce vă spun aceste lucruri.
When we discovered that we needed to be able to charge that battery.
Când am descoperit că trebuie să încărcăm această baterie,
I needed a temperature change, a change in temperature to cause current to flow through that little charging circuit that would charge the battery.
Aveam nevoie de o schimbare de temperatură ca să poată să treacă un circuit prin baterie ca să o încarce.
So we began to investigate and find out where in the body does the temperature change the most rapidly.
Și așa că ne-am dus și am făcut cercetări să vedem în care parte a corpului temperatura se schimbă cel mai mult.
We spent over $1 million in taxpayer money.
Am cheltuit $1 milion în proiectul acesta din banii celor care plătesc taxele.
And when the results came back,
și când au venit rezultatele,
there was a lot of information.
Era foarte multă informație în legătură cu proiectul acesta.
We divided it up amongst 3 teams.
Și le-am împărțit informațiile în 3 echipe care să le studieze.
And then came back together with that information.
Și apoi ne-am adunat împreună ca să discutăm informațiile acestea.
It was determined that there were 2 places in the body that were ideal for the microchip.
Astfel am ajuns la concluzia că erau 2 locuri în corpul omenesc care sunt ideale pentru a plasa acest microchip.
One was just below the hairline on the forehead.
Una era chiar
lângă păr, pe frunte.
Every mother checks their child's temperature right here.
Toate mamele verifică temperatura copilor aici pe frunte.
So we could have paid the mothers $1 million and saved
Puteam să le plătim la mame $1.000.000 și ne spuneau ele rezultatul. Nu mai trebuia să facem cercetări.
I never saw a mother check their child's temperature on their ankle.
N-am văzut nicio mamă să verifice temperatura copilului la glezne.
Always right here.
Totdeauna aici pe frunte.
The other place was the hand, the right hand preferred, because most people are right-handed.
Alt loc era pe mâna dreaptă, pentru că majoritatea oamenilor sunt cu mâna dreaptă. Dreptaci.
This didn't bother me, and it didn't bother anybody else on the team.
Nu ne-a deranjat lucrul acesta nici pe mine, nici pe ceilalți din echipă.
The hand seemed a good place. Nobody wanted it here.
Mâna se părea că e cel mai bun loc, pentru că nimeni nu prea vrea să o pune pe frunte.
And so the design work, everything was completed, the microchip was done.
Astfel că munca a fost terminată, proiectul a fost încheiat și microchipul a fost proiectat.
You are seeing it now on some of the Discovery Channel presentations. There are people who have received it already. It is real. It's not something that's coming way down the road.
La televizor ați văzut pe canalul Discovery că vorbesc despre lucrul acesta și sunt oameni care deja l-au. Deci nu e ceva care fantezie, e ceva real.
They told me not to read the book of Revelation.
Și mi-au spus să nu citesc cartea Apocalipsa.
They said the book of Revelation is too hard to understand.
Mi-au spus cartea Apocalipsa e prea greu de înțeles.
So I waited and I didn't read the book of Revelation.
Așa că am așteptat și n-am citit cartea Apocalipsa.
For quite some time.
Pentru un timp destul de lung.
Then one day I came to Revelation 13, verse 16.
Odată am ajuns să citesc în Apocalipsa capitolul 13, versetul 16.
Yeah.
16.
And he causes all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or in their foreheads.
Și au făcut ca toți, mici și mari, bogați și săraci, slobozi și robi, să primească un semn pe mâna dreaptă sau pe frunte.
I didn't like what I saw.
Nu prea mi-a plăcut ce am citit acolo în Biblie.
I went back and looked up the word mark.
M-am dus să văd ce înseamnă cuvântul acela semn.
I went to the Strong's Concordance.
M-am dus la concordanța scrisă de Strong.
And I found that John had used 3 words for the word mark.
Și am văzut că Ioan a folosit 3 cuvinte pentru cuvântul acesta semn.
Charagma, characater and charax.
Sunt numele pe care le-a folosit în limba originală greacă.
That was from the Greek. I looked at those words. They talked about a scratch or an etching. They talked about a lot of things.
Și am vrut să văd ce sens are cuvintele acestea. Parcă era vorba de o zgârietură sau de o linie.
And I said, God, this isn't it. We didn't do it.
Și am spus, Doamne, nu e asta, nu ce am făcut noi.
He said, go to the word for 666.
Și Dumnezeu mi-a zis, mergi la cuvântul care e pentru 666.
The word is chixestigma.
Cuvântul este chixestigma în limba originală a Bibliei.
In the Greek it says to go to 4742 as a cross.
În greacă spune să mergi la 4742.
The word in 4742 is the word stigma.
Și acest cuvânt este stigma.
The last half of the word chixestigma.
Ultima parte a cuvântului chixestigma.
And when I looked at what it said,
și când m-am uitat și am văzut ce spune,
it says stizo, i.e. to stick, to prick, a mark incised or punched into for recognition of ownership.
Și am văzut că însemnează o incizie, o înțepătură care se e făcută pentru a arăta proprietatea cuiva sau semnul de proprietate.
I thought about the little injection tool. The end of it is called an incisor.
Și m-am gândit la cuvântul care, la instrumentul care se taie, se face inciziunea, incizitor, bisturiu.
I began to weep and I began to cry and I said, "Oh God, what have we done?"